Hi, my name is Camry, and I am a student at the University of North Texas at Dallas. Today I will be going over my capstone project, which is about neurodivergent representation in the media. First, I want to talk about autism. What is autism? According to the CDC.gov website, I was able to find the diagnostic criteria for autism. According to their criteria, a child must have persistent. To meet diagnostic criteria according to the DSM-5, a child must have persistent deficiencies in each of 3 areas of social communication and interaction, plus at least 2 of 4 types of restricted repetitive behaviors. So, the first criteria is a persistent deficiency in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts. And this happens when deficiencies in social emotional reciprocity, ranging from examples from abnormal social approaches and failure of normal back and forth conversation. So this means that somebody has a hard time with social interactions and definitely new things. So someone with autism might have a hard time knowing social cues, or having a difficult time looking people in the eye, or what's another example? New social interactions. New things are hard, but everybody who has autism is different. It's not a cut in stone, and this is why I want to go over why it's so damaging to have such limited categories of representation in the media, and we'll go over that further. The second one is deficiencies in nonverbal communication behaviors used for social interaction. So again, social cues. And then the last one, deficiencies in development, maintaining and understanding relationships, ranging, for examples, from difficulties adjusting behaviors to suit variation social context. So, and then on these, they have to have at least 2 of the 4. Stereotyped or repetitive motor movements, use of objects, or speech. So this can happen with stimming, where somebody likes to tap on their leg, or they repeat words over and over again, or it can be many different things on stimming. This is why there's fidget spinners, and there's all kinds of textual toys that really help to focus the person with autism. Again, the insistence on sameness, inflexible adherence to routine, or ritualized patterns of verbal or nonverbal behaviors. So this means that somebody with autism may like having routines, and it might actually help them with functioning in a day-to-day basis. So next we'll finally go into media representation. So I will be talking mostly about TV and movies and what kind of categories that they place neurodivergent people in. When we watch TV and movies, we often see 4 categories when it comes to neurodivergent representation. These categories are magical savant, different quirky, undiagnosed unlabeled, and realistic. If I mispronounce this name, Alexandra Perokno. According to her article, the first category is magical savant. The magical character is presented as almost otherworldly, as many autistic characters often are. This type of character has supernatural abilities due to his or her diagnosis. Second category is different or quirky. Although these characters are labeled as autistic, they are made out to be abnormal in behavior due to choice or personality, rather than due to their medical diagnosis. The third one I'm going to talk about is undiagnosed or unlabeled. Although there are autistic characters portrayed in mainstream media, there's also characters who display symptoms of autism without having a diagnosis or a label in the show. And for the final category is realistic. These characters are either over the top in their behaviors nor subdued in the display of their symptoms. They are also not portrayed in overly positive or negative light, although these portrayals are hard to find. For this project, I wanted to analyze examples of these categories from popular TV shows that have neurodivergent characters, that I can analyze their characteristics and their traits, how other characters interact with them, things like that. This is important because it gives us a look into how society views neurodivergent individuals because of portrayals like these. Often TV and movies are only the way that people get information about autism, so they can have a lot of misconceptions because of the over-dramatization of the diagnosis or the misrepresentation. This can be an issue because the characters are often oversimplified or exaggerated versions of neurodiversity. Some of these characters have diagnoses in the show, and others are implied, which would go under the unlabeled category. So the first show that I analyzed was Atypical with Sam. There are a lot of people in the autism community that say that he is a bad representation of autism, while other people feel connected to his character. And it all depends on the autistic person. Everybody is different. They all have their own ideas of what is a good representation. So, as of now, I've finished the whole series, but I will be talking mostly about the first season and his traits, just because I don't want to ruin it for anybody else if they choose to see the show. According to my notes, some of the traits that Sam had were hard time understanding others, which is a part of the diagnostic criteria. Stimming. He likes to flick a rubber band. Sometimes he pulls his hair because it soothes him. Another one is focusing on a specific topic. His is Antarctica, and he really likes penguins, and this kind of continues on through the whole show, and it shows also his development into his own person, without his parents. Second thing is it's very sexualized, Sam is. He wants a girlfriend, he wants to have sex, he constantly talks about it throughout the whole show. That's kind of basically what the show is like talking about, or one of the topics of the show, but it does normalize romantic relationship in autism. So there are good and bad parts of this character. Second show I analyzed was The Good Doctor with Sean Murphy. For this show, I watched most of the first season. The show is about a doctor, Sean Murphy, who is diagnosed with autism and savant syndrome. Savant. And he would be considered the magical savant category. What? Yeah. So, savant syndrome is a true thing. It only happens at about 10% of autism cases. Anyway, so some of the traits that Sean shows in the show, is needs routine. He likes to have things how they are. If things are out of place, he gets anxiety, or he gets nervous, and he will want to rub his little plastic scalpel that his brother gave him, and this is a form of stimming that he shows. He also shows other ways of stimming that I can't think of off the top of my head. He's sensitive to sensory input, loud noises, yelling, bright lights, things like that are sensory overloads for him that they show in the show. So he's knowledgeable on specific info. Well, this is a little too simple. He knows everything about the human body, and he pretty much has textbooks in his mind. That's what the show kind of like shows, which is not realistic for everybody with autism. He's uncomfortable in social situations. You will often see him not making eye contact with other characters, and he will take things literally, which makes him sometimes confused when people are trying to be sarcastic or kind of bullying him. So this show has a lot of good examples of some of the ways neurodivergent individuals are discriminated against. They show this through his interactions at work with other residents at the hospital. It is shown in the way that his bosses look at him and are constantly questioning his decisions and how good he is at his job, which is pretty realistic to what autistic people go through. Moving on to the third show I analyzed, which is Community, and the character that I analyzed was Abed Nadir, who is undiagnosed, so he would be considered unlabeled or undiagnosed category. A lot of it is implied in the show. There's even a character who says he might have Asperger's and he should probably get diagnosed. At one point in the show, he sings about it's none of anybody's business, like his diagnosis, which is a little different approach than the writers of The Big Bang Theory went with, when they completely denied that Sheldon was on the spectrum. He might even be in the different or quirky category just because of his behavior in the show. He's often seen as like the lovable. His behaviors are quirky and stuff like that. Because he has an interest in movie and TV, he often likes to have that in. Because he likes movie and TV, he often likes to have those tropes or tries to make real life into a movie or a television show, and people are constantly telling him, you don't have to do that, you know that, whatever. Some of the traits that Abed shows is he doesn't understand social cues. In the first episode, the main character, Jeff, is trying to get with another character, Britta, and Abed kind of joins their study group without realizing that Jeff doesn't want him there. And he's trying to get him to leave, and he's completely clueless to the situation. So some of the issues that these interpretations can have is that a lot of people, their only experience with autism is through the media, and this can cause society to have the wrong understanding of the community. It can also affect someone from getting diagnosed, because if they see a character that is labeled autistic and the characteristics don't match their traits, then they probably don't think that they have autism, when really they probably do, because there's so many different ways people can be autistic. Because there's so many different ways to be autistic. It's not a set in stone. And a lot of these characters are just checking boxes. It's not really a character. It's just a list of traits. It's really hard to find an autistic character that has the that has an actual personality besides autism. Finally, one of the things I noticed is the abundance of no autistic actors playing autistic roles, and it's problematic. It is important to have actors that can relate to the character and those life experiences. Except one show I heard about, which was called Life Experiences. there's actually a show called Everything is Going to Be Okay, and one of the characters is autistic, and the actor who plays her is autistic, which really is amazing to see because you don't see that a lot, especially with neurodivergent representation. Another issue with the lack of female representation is how harmful it is because it perpetuates the myth that autism is mainly in men, which research says it happens equally, not really depending on gender. That'll be all today. Thank you so much, and I really hope that you all have a good day. I really like talking about this topic. It really gave me a different perspective on the representations that are in the media, and it was really great to be able to do this project. Thank you so much.